Bombshell news at CNN today as CNN President Jeff Zucker has resigned in disgrace. Now, I've got all the behind the scenes drama that you're not hearing anywhere else, plus the two suspects. And trust me, one of these two is the person who flipped on Jeff Zucker and led to his embarrassing resignation. Now, speaking of embarrassing, if you haven't seen how this was reported on CNN, get ready for all the melancholy and sadness you could ever ask for. Here's how it went down on the network.
We have news now to report involving our network. CNN President Jeff Zucker has just resigned after disclosing a consensual relationship with a colleague. Jeff has led our company, led CNN for the last 9 years. Joining me now is CNN chief media correspondent, host of Reliable Sources.
All right, now they bring in Brian Stelter. You don't need to hear what he has to say. We will get to the statement from Jeff Zucker, but she reported that like it was another 9/11. Like there was an orphanage of kids on fire and no firefighters in sight. It was absolute misery in her voice. You could tell there was some deep embarrassment there. And that's probably because she knew. I mean, I think most of these people at CNN knew. This wasn't a secret. It was an open thing. In fact, look at this photograph. You see here? This is at a Phil Collins concert. This guy right here, that's Jeff Zucker, the president or former president of CNN. This is the employee in question that he was entering into a sexual relationship with. For bonus points in the comments, who's this right here, huh? Who's that? What about this guy over here on the side? These people are both major employees at CNN, and a bunch of the other friends they're surrounded by are executives at CNN. Everyone knew they were together. This was no secret. So why is he resigning right now? This was going back to all the way in 2017, 5 years ago. CNN honchos have a heated exchange at a swanky media party. Do they look familiar? Because that's the same two people, Jeff Zucker and Allison Gullist. Those are the two of them. Here's the statement from Jeff Zucker. Apparently, when he announced this to CNN, there were gasps. People were upset. Some people were even crying, I guess, as this was read. He says, as part of the investigation into Chris Cuomo's tenure at CNN, remember that, I was asked about a consensual relationship with my closest colleague, somebody I've worked with for more than 20 years. I acknowledge the relationship evolved in recent years. I was required to disclose it when it began, but I did not, and I was wrong. As a result, I'm resigning today. CNN employees, as I said, were rocked by this. People are pissed. No one thinks the punishment fits the crime, said one of the executives. Notice how Zucker mentioned how this came from the Cuomo investigation. People think this is clearly Cuomo dragging down Zucker on the way out. Well, I mean, I'm sure just like those two knew that Jeff Zucker was with this woman and Allison Gullist was in a relationship with Jeff Zucker, I'm sure that they knew this, or Cuomo knew this, about his boss. So that's suspect one. Was this Chris Cuomo's revenge? Let me know if you think he's the culprit. Ousted host forced lying CNN boss Jeff Zucker's resignation by blowing the whistle on his open secret affair with staffer Allison Gullist while fighting for $18 million severance. So it very well could be that Cuomo wanted some revenge on the way out, and that's exactly what he was engaging in here. And I'm sure he had the details and the dirt on Zucker to do so. But there's another suspect. Enter Katie Couric. You see, after Cuomo was fired from CNN for helping his brother Andrew Cuomo fight against the sexual harassment allegations during his time as governor, after Cuomo was fired, somebody wanted that job very, very badly at CNN. Somebody wanted to make a triumphant return to media in a primetime position. Katie Couric. Was it Katie Couric that sank her one-time friend and colleague, Jeff Zucker? Well, they weren't doing well together, especially since Couric's recent book, where she burned all of the bridges in media that she had, mentioned this exact issue. In fact, this was one of the passages from this book from Katie Couric. It was a little weird. With the Today Show, I just kind of came on and people responded. Here, there was product testing. It didn't feel organic. At a certain point, Jeff made a huge push to bring on Allison Gullist. Boy, that name sounds familiar. He's pushing to bring this woman along. When we worked together at NBC, she and Jeff cooked up ever bolder ways to draw attention to Today and later to Jeff himself when he moved to entertainment. They were really joined at the hip. The problem was we already hired a PR person for the show. There really wasn't a role for Allison. Jeff asked me to meet with her anyway. So she shuts down Allison Gullis and says, "We don't really have a position for you." But that wasn't the end of it, right? They said later on, Jeff Zucker called up Katie Couric and said, "Will you do me a favor?" Sounding uncharacteristically needy. "Will you call Jeff Bukes, the CEO of Time Warner at the time, and put in a good word for me at CNN? This is really my last chance to have a big job like this. And of course, if you want it, there'll be a job for you too." The first person he hired, according to this book from Katie Couric, Allison Gullist was the first person that he hired when he got to CNN. Boy, they really did seem attached at the hip. CNN employees are mad no matter which one of these two turned on Jeff Zucker. They're saying they're mad that Allison is keeping her job. She was once considered as the heir apparent to Zucker. She was going to get the job next. Why is she allowed to keep her job? A CNN insider rallied. CNN is supposed to be a transparent news network. How does she get away with lying about an affair for so long? Well, she's staying there. Jeff Zucker is leaving. And now they have intern co-heads Michael Bass, Amy Antelis, and Ken Jouts. Those three are going to be taking over for now. Who will be the next person to helm CNN is a huge question. And I'm sure there'll be lots of tears shed about it on the network. But what do you think? Who do you think did in Jeff Zucker? And do you think he should have been forced to resign? Because they were going to fire him if he didn't. Remember that. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll battle back and forth with you in the comments on this video as always. Facebook.com/The News Junkie. Hit that follow button or like. Over on YouTube.com/The News Junkie. Hit subscribe. Thank you to all my supporters. You'll see below the post a way you can support this channel for more videos like this. I appreciate you watching. We'll talk to you again real soon.